Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a wild story of biological duality. On one hand, we've got this highly regulated, clinically proven world of absolute blockbuster weight loss peptides. And on the other, well, we've got the murky, totally underground, and heavily debated world of gray market regenerative compounds.
So, let's jump right into it. How exactly is a single class of molecules simultaneously driving the biggest pharmaceutical success story of our entire generation while also fueling a massive, global, totally unregulated experiment? We're honestly standing at a crossroads in medical science right now, and to understand how we got here, we've really got to look at the data.
What are peptides? Look, before we get into the billion-dollar clinical trials, the underground biohackers, and the FDA crackdowns, we need to quickly ground ourselves in the basic biology of what we're actually talking about here.
Okay, so the easiest way to visualize a peptide is to picture a tiny sequence of beads on a string. The exact order of those beads determines its entire job. It decides if the peptide is going to act as a hormone, a neuromodulator, or a tissue repair signal. Think of them as master biological switches telling your cells exactly what to do. And what's really cool is they have what scientists call pleiotropic effects, which is just a fancy way of saying they can multitask. A single peptide can actually trigger multiple biological pathways at the exact same time.
Moving on to part 2, the golden child. Let's start with the regulated miracles. This is the rigorously tested, squeaky clean world of metabolic and weight loss drugs where billions of research dollars have quite literally changed the world.
The scientific progression we've seen here in just the last few years is absolutely awe-inspiring. First, researchers started out by hitting just one hormone receptor with semaglutide. Then, they figured out how to target 2 receptors with tirzepatide. And now, Eli Lilly has built a single molecule called retatrutide that perfectly activates 3 different receptors all at once. The pace of this innovation is just staggering.
And you have to see the sheer exponential power of adding those extra receptor targets. We're moving from roughly 13% average weight loss all the way to an unbelievable 28.7% in the latest retatrutide phase 3 trials for patients on the highest dose. And actually, it's not even just about the weight. Patients in these trials also saw a 75% reduction in knee osteoarthritis pain. It's a total game changer.
And we know for sure these results are legit because the safety data pool is massive. We're talking over 5,800 actual human participants in the retatrutide TRIUMPH trials alone. Now, to be fair, it's not totally without side effects. They did pick up a signal for a condition called dysesthesia, which is this abnormal sense of touch, though it was mostly mild. But honestly, this level of tight regulatory oversight is exactly how evidence-based medicine is supposed to work.
But wait, because pharmaceutical researchers are absolutely not stopping at 3. Based on some incredible April 2026 research from ACS Chemical and Engineering News, scientists are right now working on a drug that could literally make current treatments like Ozempic look totally outdated. We're talking about a quintuple agonist.
That's right. Scientists have built a single experimental molecule that activates 5 distinct receptors at the exact same time. They pulled this off by using a really clever pH-sensitive linker to physically attach lanifibranor, which is a specific metabolic agonist, right onto a GLP-1 and GIP mimic. And what's truly mind-blowing about this April 2026 data is that it proves GLP-1 isn't even strictly essential for weight loss anymore. Targeting just glucagon and GIP gets the job done, and potentially with far fewer of those awful gastrointestinal side effects. By stacking on amylin and calcitonin pathways too, these early mouse models are showing just unprecedented obesity reversal, pushing theoretical human weight loss well past the 30% mark.
But all this poses a huge question for the scientific community right now. Is hitting 5 receptors at once truly the ultimate silver bullet, or are we going to find out that careful, precise selectivity matters way more than just brute biological force? Up to this point, yeah, every step up in targets has yielding more weight loss. But humans are incredibly complex systems, with the 2026 Frontiers in Drug Discovery report pointing to entirely different pathways like GLP-2 and FGF21 as the next big wave. We are really just scratching the surface of what these molecules can do.
All right, part 3, the Wild West. Let's leave those pristine, heavily regulated big pharma labs behind us and step right into the totally unregulated peptide craze, where people definitely aren't waiting around for phase 3 trials to start experimenting on themselves.
Deep in the underground world of biohacking and pro sports, there's a specific 15 amino acid fragment originally discovered in human stomach acid. It's called BPC-157, and you might know it by its nickname, the Wolverine peptide, thanks to its completely sci-fi sounding claims of rapid tissue regeneration, joint repair, and slashing inflammation.
But the contrast here between the hype and the science is pretty terrifying. On one hand, we've got over 100 preclinical studies showing absolute miracles in rats and mice, like severed Achilles tendons healing at record speed. But on the human side, it's literally a black hole of proper pharmacokinetic data. We're talking only 3 published human pilot studies ever, 0 randomized controlled trials, and fewer than 30 total subjects. Oh, and a major phase 1 human trial back in 2015? That was mysteriously canceled before a single result was ever published.
To understand why this total lack of human data is so scary, we really have to look at BPC-157's primary mechanism of action. It relies on a process called angiogenesis. That is the biological stimulation of brand new blood vessel growth, which is basically how the peptide brings those vital repair crews straight to a damaged tendon.
And this is the ultimate double-edged sword right here. Think about it. Tumors are incredibly greedy. They desperately need their own fresh blood supply to grow larger. So the exact same biological trigger that can rapidly heal a torn muscle in a bodybuilder could, in theory, feed and accelerate an undiscovered, microscopic tumor somewhere else in their body. Without those rigorous clinical trials, we just literally don't know if BPC-157 is acting as a firefighter or a fire starter in humans. Which brings us to Part 4, the 2026 FDA reversal. All of this incredible promise, directly mixed with these really dangerous unknowns, led to some wild regulatory whiplash over the last few years.
The timeline here is fascinating. Back in 2022, the World Anti-Doping Agency flat out banned BPC-157 for all athletes. Then, in 2023, the FDA cracked down hard, putting it on the Category 2 restricted list and stopping compounding pharmacies from making it. Ironically, this just pushed users straight into the hands of super sketchy internet vendors. But now, as of April 2026, the FDA is doing a massive 180, pulling these gray market molecules right back into the legal, regulated fold.
This means 14 highly sought-after peptides are moving back to Category 1. We're talking heavy hitters here. BPC-157 for recovery, CJC-129.5 and ipamorelin for growth hormone, AOD-9604 for fat loss. This is frankly a massive win for harm reduction because it means everyday patients and athletes can finally get pharmaceutical-grade, purity-tested versions of these compounds through a licensed provider with a real prescription instead of just crossing their fingers and hoping for the best.
So, what does the market look like moving forward? Well, as these compounding pharmacies ramp up production this year, we fully expect that dangerous research chemical market to finally shrink. Short term, yeah, expect some premium pricing just because of limited availability. But medium term, increased competition between licensed pharmacies is going to drive those prices way down. It means safe, legal access is going to become affordable. No more guessing what's actually floating around inside that vial.
As we wrap up this explainer, you really got to ask yourself, with actual proper oversight finally stepping into the picture, are we about to unlock an entirely new era of superhuman healing and obesity eradication? Or will rigorous testing eventually expose these underground legends as a really dangerous game of biological roulette? The data is finally coming, guys, and one thing is for sure, the landscape of modern medicine will literally never be the same.